Hey there, it's Mark. Excited to be bringing you one of my first blog posts and videos of the year. This is called Make Your Mark in 2024. And what we're going to be doing today is using clear stamps inside of our bullet journal to set up a goals, priorities, and a celebration page. These pages are fantastic as you get up and running in the new year, setting goals for yourself, your main priorities, and leaving room to add on, especially for small celebrations. It's one of my favorite things to add inside of my bullet journal. Let's start off with all the materials that we're going to need. First and foremost, you're going to need clear stamps. These clear stamps, also known as acrylic stamps or cling stamps, are some of my favorite because all you need is an acrylic block and they stick right onto these. So all you have to do is stamp and put them exactly where you need them. As you're thinking about a theme that you might want to do, so many stamps come as a part of collection, so you're going to find a lot of like-minded items. I'm going to be using the Archer and Olive Coffee and Books collection from last fall. The next items that you're going to need, which we just saw, which are the acrylic blocks. You can get these in a lot of different sizes at different craft stores and online, and Archer and Olive also has been starting to include these along with inks with their collection kits, which are fantastic because you can get them and get up and stamping right away. Ink is going to be next. They come in a lot of different colors and styles. Archer and Olive has been including small ones along with their kits. VersaFine is personally one of my favorite brands to use because it gets really nice fine details and it's also waterproof. Some of our basic supplies we're going to be using today is going to be a ruler. We have an eraser, a pencil, and we also have a fine liner here. Before I draw anything in my fine liner, my best recommendation is always to do it in pencil first. That way you can make sure the spacing's correct, everything's going to work out before you put the ink to the page. And the last thing we're going to use today are going to be a stencil. This is a really great way to get your letters and numbers on the page. Some people feel like it's cheating, but honestly, I feel like working smarter and not harder is the way to go. I'm using an Archer and Olive square notebook for my bullet journal this year, which I'm really excited to get back to these. This same spread can be redone in any size journal though. You just have to change up where some of your items go or maybe make your columns a little bit smaller than what you're going to see here. But totally doable, and I'll even include some other ideas with my printables for this video and the blog. The first thing that I like to do whenever I'm using stamps on my page is make sure that I actually have the space for them. So what I like to do is just peel off my clear stamps at first and just kind of lay them around the page. I know that I want this big book stack here, and then I'm going to put that 2024 title here at the top. I've decided that for each of these columns, and this is where we're going to put our goals and our priorities and our notes, we'll use this open book across the top here. I have some small icons that we're going to be using that we'd be stamping on, and the last one I'm going to add here is going to be the candle, and I'll put a header here as well for all of our small wins. I use this as just a very simple layout because all of these are actually going to be printed reversed than what I'm laying them down as. There's the printed edge here with the stamp, and then there's the flat edge here. That's what's going to stick onto the acrylic stamp. So just know that as you're laying it out, you are going to be flipping this over onto your page. So while it lays flat like this on the page, it'll actually end up looking like this. Just a little reminder as you're stamping inside of your bullet journal for the first time. Once I have everything laid onto my page, then I'll go ahead and start stamping everything down. Now, before I went ahead and laid this all out, I craved myself 3 columns for this middle section here for goals, priorities, and notes. So on your page, you're going to want to split your page into either 3 columns, or as I'll show you in the printables, some other different variation of this to make sure you're giving yourself enough space for everything. Once we're ready to start stamping, I'm going to go ahead and lay my clear stamp with the flat edge. That's going to lay right on top of my acrylic block. One of the best tips in stamping that I ever learned was instead of taking your stamp and pressing it onto the ink, you want to take your ink and press it onto the stamp. This way you have much more control of how much ink is going on there, and you can also clearly see that everything's there. What I love about clear stamps and then clear acrylic blocks is you can see exactly where you're going to be placing that stamp on your page. We're going to lay it down and we're going to give it nice even pressure. If at any point after you stamp down on your page and you lift off and you see that maybe there's some areas that didn't quite stamp okay, my recommendation for you is to go over top of it with a fine liner instead of retrying to stamp it again. That's because if you don't line up your stamp perfectly, it's going to look blurry or distorted because all of your lines are going to start overlapping in not a great way. When you're stamping, make sure to also have different sized acrylic blocks. We don't want to use a humongous one for a small stamp like this, so it's always good to have a few exercises on hand. So we have our whole page laid out now with their goals, priorities, and an open space for notes. We have the celebration space here for all the small wins throughout the year. The last thing we need to do is just add our stencil for the year at the top of our 2024 goals and planning page. Our last step to clean up the page will just be to erase any pencil marks that you might have around your page. Make sure that your ink is dry before you try to erase those, and that way you're not smearing any pen or ink on your page. We've gone ahead and made our mark for 2024. Let's do great things in this new year, set some great goals, make our priorities happen, and make sure that we're celebrating the small wins. Be sure to check out the blog post and my printables where I give you a few different layout ideas for this inside of a square, B5, and an A5 size journal.